Call the member for Kooyong.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy Speaker. I rise to join a chorus of colleagues in paying our deep respects following the death of Corporal Scott James Smith, who tragically died in Afghanistan, 21st of October 2012. Corporal Smith was only 24 years of age. He was a member of the Special Operations Engineer Regiment based at Holsworthy, and he was involved in clearing an area where he was subsequently killed by an improvised explosive device, an IED. He is tragically the 39th Australian soldier to die in Afghanistan. More than 240 have been wounded, and he is the 19th fatality from the Special Operations Task Group. Corporal Smith was a leader among brave men and women. Despite his youthful age, he'd been in the army for nearly 7 years. And during that time, he had served previously in Afghanistan as well as in the Solomon Islands. And he had received medals of commendation for his service. The Australian Active Service Medal with Clasp, International Coalition Against Terrorism. The Afghan Campaign Medal. The Australian Service Medal with Clasp, Solomon Islands. The Australian Service Medal with Clasp, Counter-Terrorism Special Recovery. The Australian Defence Medal. The NATO International Stabilisation Assistance Force Medal with Multi-Tour Indicator 2, the Army Soldiers Medallion, the Army Combat Badge, and the Return from Active Service Badge. This is all for his role participating in Operation Anode in the Solomon Islands, Operation Slipper in Afghanistan, Operation Norwich in Australia, as well as Operation Slipper again in 2012 in Afghanistan. Clearly a man who was very accomplished and who served his country well. Upon his death, Special Operations of the Commander Australia, Major General Gus Gilmore, spoke of Corporal Smith's lasting legacy. Quote, "Scott was universally respected by everyone in the Special Operations Engineer Regiment and well liked by all who crossed paths with this fine young man. His fellow combat engineers will honour his sacrifice through continuing the tough and dangerous work they undertake in Afghanistan with courage and distinction." Madam Deputy Speaker, I have been to Afghanistan, where I travelled with colleagues from both sides of this House. And we saw firsthand the bravery and the professionalism of more than 1,500 Australian men and women who were acting in Afghanistan to make Australia a safer place here at home. Because our contribution in Afghanistan is part of the war on terrorism. Let's not forget that more than 100 Australians have been killed in terrorist attacks abroad, be it in Bali, be it in 9/11 or other bombings throughout the world. Australians have not been immune from the pain and suffering of being the victims of terrorism. But by being in Afghanistan as part of a multinational force with more than 40 countries, we are doing our part to make the world a safer place. And what is more, we are giving opportunity to men and to women and to children who would never have known freedom or safety or security as they do today. There are problems still in Afghanistan. Nobody seeks to diminish the task ahead. But with 300,000 strong Afghan National Police and Afghan National Army, with a girls' school that Australian taxpayers have helped fund that we went to visit as it was being built, and to other aid programs that we are doing on the ground, We are making a difference in Afghanistan, and Corporal Scott James Smith did not give his life in vain. Madam Deputy Speaker, it is important to understand that Corporal Smith was not just a fine soldier. He was a fine young man, a partner to Liv, a son to Katrina and Murray, and a sister to Roxanne. And in the statement from the family of Corporal Scott James Smith, they said Scott was a tremendous soldier. It's openly acknowledged that he was well respected within his workplace and by those who knew him. We knew the Army was Scott's second family, his home away from home. But Scott truly believed his actions made a difference. He was a truly dedicated soldier who also knew how to relax with his time away from work. He attended school in the local area, and he used his school holidays to learn to barefoot water ski. Scott loved being outdoors and keeping fit through his lifetime as he pursued many sports, from long-distance running to cricket and any sort of competition he could be involved in. Scott had a great sense of humour and was very much into practical jokes. And Liv, Scott's German princess, met him when she was an exchange student in Australia. After that, the pair could be found in all sorts of mischief together. Madam Deputy Speaker, that's the human side of this condolence motion. That is the tragedy of the loss of life of Corporal Scott James Smith. When we in this House all go back to our offices and to our families at home, Liv and her and Katrina and Murray and Roxanne do not have their loved one with them. So my heart and my prayers go out to the Smith family. I say to you that your son was braver than us here. He volunteered. He was not conscripted. He volunteered to serve in the Australian Army. He put his life at risk, not one day, not 2 days, but weeks, months, in fact years,
Every day,
as he served his country. And in this place, we must always seek to uphold the values that makes Australia great. Because what Corporal Scott James Smith has done is gone abroad and paid the ultimate sacrifice to see Afghanistan be a better place, but also to see Australia be a safer one too. Our thoughts and our prayers go to the Smith family, and I join with my colleagues on both sides of this House in saying, your son, your partner, your brother, Corporal Scott James Smith, was a hero to all, lest we forget.